Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for another episode of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe on this Tuesday. We have a lot to get through as I'm just looking at my notes there because obviously so much has happened at Chelsea over the past month. The owner update, looking at Andreas Christensen today as it seems he's getting closer and closer to the exit door, leaving for Barcelona. I want to also speak about Christian Pulisic's incredible form for the USA and the impact on Chelsea moving forward, and Timo Werner's recent comments surrounding Tuchel and his Chelsea future. But before we get into any of that good stuff, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Gonna have a Q&A out tomorrow, so please submit your questions. I'll leave a post on my community page, but also on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, where you can submit your questions. So it'll be fun to do one of those before Chelsea resume on Saturday against Brentford, where hopefully we can continue the recent winning run. But let's get into it straight away. I mean, the owner update, I think the best place to go here because, you know, I even feel a little bit fearful uploading and recording a video at the moment regarding Chelsea because things change so quickly. But at least for now, from Matt Law here in the Telegraph on Sunday, revealed Chelsea bidders given final deadline to complete takeover by the end of April. Bullet points, basically an April the 11th deadline for second bids, the chance to meet Chelsea department heads, a tour of the club's facilities, and the aim of closing a sale by the end of April. Once the final offers have been collected, a preferred buyer will be selected for government approval with the intention of a deal being completed by the end of April. So we know that Joshua Harris and David Blitzer, who are behind Sir Martin Broughton's offer, Stephen Pagliuca, who it was kind of a late entry here, they kind of have conflicts because they do have shares in Crystal Palace and Atalanta, which will kind of break Premier League and Champions League rules. And of course, we know about the Ricketts family, the opposition Chelsea fans have given to them. I suspect if they were to go further in this process, there would be protests against them. And of course, we know about Todd Bowley's consortium, which is a preferred bidder of mine. I've written about it. I've spoken about it on this channel before. Please go to Football London. I'll leave the link in the description box below where you can go and read about that because I've obviously been covering it a lot for Football London recently. So yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see with this now because so much changes, so much is up in the air. It was just a complete mess at the end of last week where it was like the Okikoki, you know, who was in, who was out, and there's still kind of conflicting reports over some people who have failed potentially joining other consortiums, and of course the kind of complications with that short list of people who have shares in other clubs and the opposition obviously to the Ricketts family, and there are questions behind sort of where the investment from Todd Bowley's consortium would come from. So hopefully we get some more answers in the coming weeks because it is a pressing matter. But let's get into some more football and player stuff. Andreas Christensen. See a tweet here that I'll pop on screen now from Fabrizio Romano, the one and only, regarding Christensen's future. It really comes from Barca president Laporta confirming that they've completed 2 signings for next season. One is a midfielder, the other one is a centre-back, but we are not allowed to mention their names. I mean, it's not quite hard to guess who these 2 players could be. Fabrizio saying here, of course, Frank Kessie and Andreas Christensen deals are fully agreed. So Chelsea fans naturally are reacting to this negatively. Is it that surprising? I mean, I think people had made their minds up on Christensen a long time ago, as they do with many things nowadays. I may have said this on the channel when I've been asked about it, is that I feel it's a little bit of a shame the way Christensen has been treated and is kind of made out to be a snake or a villain. This departure is, you know, at least unless he comes out of like a really insulting interview, is nowhere close to what, say, Thibaut Courtois did or other players in history have done. He was under no obligation, no Chelsea player is under obligation to sign a contract. He was allowed, and he is allowed to walk away and to start somewhere new. That's what he wants for his own career. That's the way it is. I think I said this, you can go back and watch a video. I think I was reacting to Jose Mourinho becoming Spurs manager, David Luiz signing for Arsenal. It kind of came in that 1920 season where, unless, as I say, players are openly insulting to you and really disrespect the club's name, I think having sort of a distant sort of view of players and at least appreciating them when they're at your club is a healthier way of going about things, because players move, times change. And I think that Christensen, his involvement in the Champions League last year was incredible. His performance in the final, the semi-final, all the way up to that triumph, like many players, was brilliant. His emergence under Thomas Tuchel for at least a brief period where he became the player I think many Chelsea fans hoped he could. I was one of the doubters for years about that. Of course, it's a shame it hasn't blossomed into something more, and he hasn't been able to, or at least the club haven't been able to agree this. I think your frustration should actually lie with Chelsea here in terms of allowing a situation where we have 3 defenders, senior defenders, coming into the final year of their contract, particularly after a summer where we decided to let go of Fikayo Tomori and Mark Guehi. That's where I think your frustration should lie here in terms of the club allowing a situation like this to unfold. And the potential is there for this to happen again with Jorginho and N'Golo Kante. I think only 2 of the players, maybe there's another one in that bracket as well, whose contract comes to an end in 2023. And I don't want that happening again. I think a decision has to be made over Jorginho and N'Golo Kante this summer. Are you keeping them? Are you letting them go? Because I don't want this hanging over next season as well, particularly under new ownership, for what they'd want to achieve in their first season. So it's I think on the club in that sense that we've allowed this situation to fester and unfold. And sure, I think some of it maybe comes down to the fact that both Christensen and Rudiger, not Azpilicueta, suddenly transformed into quite good defenders, particularly Rudiger, out of nowhere under Tuchel. I think both players were maybe close to leaving, particularly Rudiger. So sure, there is context within that these players could have been off earlier, but at the same time, to allow their situations to get this drawn out, I think is difficult. So I wish Christensen the best. I hope that for the rest of the season he can put in good performances. I think he's had a particularly good season on the pitch. I haven't seen that sign that he's looking elsewhere. If he performs well, if he contributes to another Champions League and another FA Cup, that'd be wonderful for him to go out. So I feel no ill will. I know people have already been calling him a mistake and telling him to go elsewhere. I think that's a bit of a shame, because I don't think we can put him in the same bracket as other players. Players are going to move on, and hopefully Chelsea, this is a lesson to Chelsea to not allow this situation to happen again, because it has been a problem this season with all the other problems that have happened at Chelsea this year. But I want to get to the final 2 things here before I wrap up today's episode. Christian Pulisic, what an incredible performance for the US. They are on the brink of World Cup qualification now. I know The Athletic wrote a piece about this the other day that was kind of like when Pulisic, when the US needed Pulisic to step up, he did in such a big way. And considering his recent form for Chelsea too, which has got better on the left side of Tuchel's attack, you got to be really excited about what Pulisic can do here. He's remained fit, touch wood, for quite a while now. And when he's on the pitch, he's proving effective. I think he's not only... My big thing about Pulisic is always about goals. I think when he gets into the box at his best, he's a different animal. He comes alive, his anticipation to know where to be, getting on the end of things. Of course, that 3rd goal for the US was just sublime. It wasn't Eden Hazard. I know there's always those comparisons between Hazard and Pulisic in terms of Pulisic coming after Hazard. That was more of that Hazard type goal. I think 9 times out of 10, Pulisic's best attribute is getting on the end of things and first time finishes like we saw against Lille, and that anticipation to be on the end of a loose ball against Burnley. That's where he thrives. But hopefully he comes back to Chelsea fine, fit, and ready to go for those Real Madrid games, because he had such a great impact against Madrid in both legs last year, and there's such excitement. I know some people have kind of, I think I've stressed this before, people maybe accuse me and others of not rating Pulisic. I mean, if anyone's been watching this channel since 2019, since Pulisic arrived, I've always been more sympathetic to Christian Pulisic and very supportive of him. I've always, sort of sung his praise and felt like ridiculously at times kind of predicting him to be top goal scorer, because I always feel that there's a player there that could grow into something bigger, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can see that. But we have to move from one attacker who I think is doing things positively for Chelsea and for his international team to another player who's obviously doing positive things for his international team, but not so for Chelsea, and also giving some comments that I don't think are best placed at the moment for his own career, and just the way I think it sort of reflects upon him, and that is Timo Werner. People should know my views on Timo Werner if you've been watching my videos. I don't rate him that highly. I think that this summer the only solution is to sell him, because I just don't think it's worked out for the player, for the club, and I don't see a future for Werner at Chelsea. And maybe these comments kind of signal to that, especially in the sun. We've heard reports in recent months about Borussia Dortmund potentially having an interest in Timo Werner, particularly if, say, Erling Haaland is going to be coming to the Premier League or go somewhere else. So this is what he had to say in full after his goal against Israel for Germany. There are differences in the style of play between football at Chelsea and here. Maybe the one at the national team suits me better. Here I always have scoring chances. I can score goals. I feel very comfortable here. If I'm just breaking down the actual comments, I mean, Werner does get scoring chances for Chelsea, and he does get scoring chances for Germany. If you watched that game on Friday, if you watched the first half performance where at the end of it he scores his goal, he has a lot of chances, and it's typical of Werner. You know, he does miss a lot of chances. That's kind of a trademark of his game. But it's not just that. I mean, it's the fact that I think his game has deteriorated to a point, particularly in a Chelsea shirt now, that I think that those things that for a long time people excused in Werner's game are no longer sort of justifiable to keep him in the team. And also I think sort of the non-reaction I want to say to his comments are quite interesting, because the tone of his comments and some of the comments he's given seems to be questioning Tuchel. I mean, you can even perceive them as a slight dig at Thomas Tuchel, which I know we can dramatise things and kind of read too much into quotes, but what he's kind of saying here is I feel more trusted, more comfortable with Germany, which I don't particularly feel that's much of a surprise, because if you watch him for Germany, watch him for Chelsea, he's barely been playing for Chelsea as well. I mean, he went 89 days without a league start, which kind of shows you where his placing is at Chelsea. And his fellow attackers have started to play well. I mean, after months and months and months of us being frustrated with the attack, you now look at Christian Pulisic is in good form and influencing things. Kai Havertz has hit the best form of his Chelsea career. Even Lukaku scoring goals in the FA Cup. Hakim Ziyech too. Mason Mount, goals and assists. You know, he's racking up that influence once again, as we expect. So it's difficult for him. But you know, given the outrage that was sent Romelu Lukaku's way when he appeared to question Thomas Tuchel's tactics, the fact there was none towards Werner, at least from what I saw, maybe says about what people feel about Werner. I think there's always been that sense of sympathy and liking to Werner because of even his struggles, I guess. You think about how supportive Chelsea fans were to Fernando Torres. You know, it's not that different to what we've done in the past, which I always like, because, you know, the amount of abuse footballers get on a regular basis, particularly online, it's nice to see people backing a player, but there also needs to be a level of honesty when we're having conversations here. And this is not a under 23s player. This is not a £5 million player. This is someone that Chelsea spent nearly 50 million on, that was considered one of the elite forwards in European football, who has simply not delivered to any, I think, acceptable level. Alisson has the same amount of Premier League goals as Timo Werner since May 2021. I think that says enough. I mean, I could go into the Morata stats as well in terms of comparing Morata at Chelsea to Werner at Chelsea, and they just aren't that flattering. So yeah, I hope for Werner's sake he can move on in the summer, because I think that's the best case scenario for him. But that's my thoughts on everything today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Got a Q&A, as I mentioned at the start. Hopefully going to be getting some guests on. It's weird how we find ourselves in a very similar situation to last year. Still in the Champions League, still in the FA Cup. I think the Premier League is a little bit more comfortable this time, which is what I want. I hope Chelsea can win a couple more Premier League games. I think that would kind of get us there to Champions League qualification, which would be nice, because if we do progress past Real Madrid, I think it would give Tuchel a bit more flexibility as we go into those semi-finals. He wouldn't need to feel like I have to play my best team every single week, and it would maybe jeopardise something. So hopefully Chelsea can continue a really good winning run, because despite the chaos around Chelsea at the moment on the pitch, Tuchel and his players I think have been doing wonderfully well, and hopefully they can continue that on Saturday. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.